Appalling irresponsibility. Senior scientists attack Chinese researchers for creating new strains of influenza virus in veterinary laboratory. Senior scientists have criticized the appalling irresponsibility of researchers in China who have deliberately created new strains of influenza virus in a laboratory, reports the London Independent. They warn that there is a danger that the new viral strains created by mixing bird flu virus with human influenza could escape from the laboratory to cause a global pandemic, killing millions of people. So Lord May of Oxford, a former government chief scientist and president of the Royal Society, is up in arms about this, that China's developing these secret influenza viruses in labs, which is kind of rich because the Chinese are basically being lambasted for conducting research less dangerous than what Western pharmaceutical giants, what the British and American governments have been caught doing on a regular basis. And in fact, there's another article by Kurt Nim on Infowars.com which documents numerous instances of that, not only creating viruses in labs, but deliberately allowing them to escape. And in fact, you'll remember our story from 2009 involving Baxter. They actually created vaccines contaminated with the H5N1 avian flu virus and distributed them with the virus in the vaccine to 18 different countries right before they were set to be injected into humans. Only by a miracle was the pandemic prevented, because they tested them on rats, on ferrets actually in the Czech Republic. They all died, and as a result the vaccine did not get sent out. If that test had not been conducted, it could have led to a global pandemic. So it's kind of rich that the Chinese are getting lambasted when massive Western pharmaceutical corporations and governments have been caught doing much worse on a regular basis. And in fact, we've covered numerous examples over the years. Of course, the foot and mouth outbreak in the UK back in 2001 devastated the farming community. Right before the outbreak, a vial of the disease mysteriously went missing from the British government's Porton Down bioweapons lab. Then, of course, we had the swine flu outbreak in 2009, which was completely ginned up, completely hysterical, completely designed to make profits for the pharmaceutical industry. That was not our conclusion. It was the conclusion of Wolfgang Wodarg, who was the chair of the Council of Europe's subcommittee investigating the whole matter. That's the conclusion that he came to. So you've got China being publicly attacked for creating viruses in labs when the US and British governments, Western pharmaceutical companies, do it routinely and indeed accidentally release viruses with barely a whimper of protest on a regular basis. Yet there's no mainstream media screaming headlines complaining about it, unlike with China. Now, Michael Snyder of the Economic Collapse blog reports on the holocaust of jobs with self-employed people. The percentage of Americans that are working for themselves has never been lower in the history of the United States. Once upon a time, the United States was a paradise for entrepreneurs and small businesses, but now the control-freak bureaucrats that dominate our society have created a system that absolutely eviscerates them. And he goes through all the figures. Basically, since 1990, self-employment has completely collapsed. More and more people are becoming dependent on not only handouts, food stamps, but also government jobs. And if you look at the figures today, what do you find? The overall unemployment rate largely unchanged at 7.5%. Of course, it's actually around 20% plus if you count the people who've stopped looking for work. They're not officially recorded. But government unemployment is dropping. There are more government jobs around, down from 3.6% to 3.3% from March to April. So if you want to be dependent on the system, there are plenty of government jobs available. If you want to be truly independent and actually try to make the free market work for yourself, be self-employed or have your own private business, then you're going to run into problems. The control freaks, as we talked about in the interview with Lloyd Chapman, they're creating a business environment that's starting to resemble Atlas Shrugged. It's not far off from that dystopic future as this article documents. And they're basically trying to strangle self-employment, which has plummeted, as I said, since 1990, and replace it with this shell of an economy that mandates everybody to be invested in, to be dependent on the corrupt system, because that's the only way that they can continue this charade of economic recovery.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the sites, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.